I've always liked traveling in stories. It's one of those small details that I have an oddly high appreciation for. You know, stories like the Lord of the Rings or Wheel of Time, where locations and traveling long distances is a large part of the story. I've always felt that taking your time and breathing in the world around you is the best way to make any fictional world come alive. It's an adventure. The topic of today is mostly formed from those feelings and my hopes of improving role-playing in World of Warcraft, but perhaps there will be some overlap with other topics. In a way, you could say that today's topic is just about mounts. Ground mounts. Very specific ground mounts. I must confess, I'm not a big fan of flying mounts in this game. Don't get me wrong though. In terms of convenience, there is nothing that beats flying in this game. For example, when you're going to a specific place in a hurry, need to get to an old raid entrance to do your weekly attempt at getting a less than 1% drop rate mount or something. In times like those, being able to get to your goal swiftly is a godsend. But my views are colored by a role-player's mindset. It gives you very different priorities. Which is why, today, I'd like to talk to you about wagons. Alright, so, why wagons, you may be asking? Well, once in a while, throughout the World of Warcraft, you run into these specific missions. Areas, or zones rather, where you have the chance to hop onto a wagon and travel through the zone in question with quest NPCs. I've always found those quests very appealing for some reason. Traveling with NPCs as you do quests for and with them, advancing their little plot lines. It certainly makes you care a lot more about their stories when they do more than just stand around and give quests. It all, very coincidentally, matches very well with my personal preferences. And this is where we begin entering the role-player's view on this. Please, indulge me. Traveling is a very big part of role-playing in WoW. Unlike normal play, where you just rub your hands together for a few seconds and then fly off into the sky, in roleplay, people like a more grounded approach to traveling. Well, usually. Some people do just use portals, but let's just talk about my experiences for now. Let's just say that I'm not a big fan of in-character acknowledgement of the portal rooms being freely accessible to anyone. The Alliance one is more reasonable as it is in a tower in the heart of the city, guarded by droves of mages and golems. But the Horde one? It's literally built into the entryway into Orgrimmar, where any vagrant can just walk right in. I hate it. Though that opinion is probably colored by my love of regular traveling. But I still think it's really dumb. Traveling the world has always been one of my favorite parts of role-playing in the game. Actually, that's probably my favorite part of the regular game as well. Having a chance to slowly make your way through the zones as you roleplay and talk with other player characters, taking it nice and slow to let the distance feel like it matters. Being thrust into a surprise event that the event organizer had prepared. A bandit attack, a rabid bear, or even just doing some relaxed traveling before setting up a camp. It's all very immersive, especially with the inky black potion. Nice and atmospheric. Though, on that note, I would much prefer it if the nights in the game were actually just darker. So, I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. Wagons and carriages as mounts. It's a rather simple idea when you think about it. I'll talk about some more of the reasons why I personally would love their addition later. But for now, I'll outline the form that these mounts would take in my ideal world. It all goes back to the hive mind. Now, I don't have this mount. I could never be bothered getting people together to do the required puzzles. The point is, when I learned of the hive mind's special ability, I immediately began coming up with ideas. The hive mind is a 5-seat mount that fits an entire party. That's quite a lot of people on one mount. It's usually just the 1 to 3. With the establishment of mounts that can hold more than 1 or 2 people, I propose the following. I would like to see a variety of wagons and carriages be made into ground mounts. The setup for them would be quite simple, really. The person who deploys the mount takes the seat of the driver, sitting at the helm of the carriage. This then leaves 4 seats open for people to hop into the carriage and be driven around. It's disgustingly simple, really. There are a variety of wagons and carriages in WoW that would make for amazing mounts like this. An immediate one that comes to mind is the Silverbind wagon being pulled by an Ettin. Though I don't remember them being this twitchy. Okay, maybe we skip that one. However, the model for the wagon is used by every other Horde caravan as well. Just have one of the normal ones pulled by a Kodo. That would be just fine. Amazing, actually. I'm already having a multitude of ideas just thinking about it. Anyway, there are also the ones that are more like Fiona's caravan from the Eastern Plaguelands, a more traditional horse-drawn carriage. In fact, the Gilnean-styled carriage that Fiona drives is actually the one that inspired me the most when I began thinking about this topic. It's such a classic design for a horse-drawn carriage. For some reason, just looking at the pile of luggage on top just gives me these warm fuzzies on the inside. It's wonderful. This is straying deeper into the role-playing uses for wagon-type mounts, but think about this for a moment. These wagons are something that would be almost as revolutionary for role-playing as bringing back the Draenor leatherworking tents would be. Traveling is a massively important concept in roleplay, and if we had mounts like these, carriages and wagons that characters were able to enter, where they could converse while looking each other in the eyes as they are being driven to their destination by the carriage, it would make just the act of traveling 1,000 times more meaningful. And beyond just being able to talk properly while being in the carriage, wagons would also make role-playing for merchant-type characters and others that need to transport items from place to place much better. And that, in turn, would make opportunities for highwaymen.
This is our town, scrub.
Yeah, beat it!
Actually, I have a very good example for why this would be an amazing addition to the game. My first role-playing character was an orc warrior who was a part of an orcish warband. My character, in addition to his role in combat, was also responsible for transporting the warband's rations and larger equipment on a wagon. Which was just a regular Kodo mount, with an imaginary wagon behind it. I'm sure you can imagine how having actual wagons would make situations like that much easier. Being able to physically perceive the wagon that you are supposed to be pulling. It would be an amazing improvement. You know that thing, how in the olden days when pioneers in foreign lands would clash with the natives, what's the first thing that they would do when sensing trouble? They would circle their wagons for cover and safety. This is something that I want to see one day. Roleplayers having the ability to use the open road like this. Circling their wagons when setting up camp or when faced with danger. It's something that would benefit all roleplayers beyond belief. Peasants with their carts of pumpkins, turnips, miscellaneous. Military guilds with their heavy artillery and munitions carts. Merchants with their valuable merchandise wagons. Nobility sitting back in their comfortable carriages sipping on their wine smugly as they look at the peasants out the windows. This would even just give people the ability to roleplay a carriage driver, someone who transports people from place to place. it wouldn't be this awkward thing anymore where people are just like, okay, we need to get to this other place, so let's mount up and I guess we'll just run over there and nothing else happens. No one can talk and it's just not great. I can't really describe in words how much this would benefit this part of the community. Granted, these mounts would be quite mundane, but I'm sure that even non-role players would enjoy the ability to travel as one with their party, even if it was something as mundane as a horse-drawn carriage. Oh, and in the case that anyone wants to say that all of this is unrealistic, that wagons and carriages are too large to be mounts, I want to remind you that this is in the game. So, I think that simple carriages would be quite reasonable as mounts, especially with how useful and fun something like this would be. Granted, for regular players this would be just kind of neat, but for role players this would be a game changer. I think that about does it for now. Thank you for indulging my idle fantasies. I very much appreciate it. And until next time.